Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome to Tarot by the Pines. I am your host Jason, and in this video I'll be doing a VR to Candy over at Candy Soul and Soil, who created this fun hashtag where you share all of the tarot decks you dated in 2020. And I've dated a lot of decks in 2020, and not to brag, but so if you're interested in seeing what tarot decks I dated in 2020, and perhaps we dated the same, so stay tuned. Everybody say love. In honor of February, the month of love, I figured I would participate in Candy's hashtag Dating the Tarot 2020, which is a hashtag that forces us to take a deeper look at the decks that we don't usually use that often. So decks that are usually on your favorites list, they will usually not show up here. And I wanted to follow that. And Candy did say you could use Tarot or Oracle, but I figured I would stick with Tarot because of Candy's story with Tarot, and it really touched home with me. So let's go ahead and get started. The first date is called the Cheapskate Date. Who did you date because they were cheap as chips, and what was the outcome? Of course, I have to go with the Everyday Tarot. This retails for $9.95, and it is a great deck at that price, especially for what you're getting. The color palette is these golds, purples, whites, and it just really is a modern, simplistic take on the traditional RWS system, and I just love it. And it's so wonderful of a tarot deck for that price. The second is the slow burner date, the one you weren't sure about on first meeting, but over time you suspect it's turning to love. And love is such a strong word for this particular deck. I really do like it. It's called the Morgan Greer Tarot. This is a deck that will have that zoomed in cropped image of the traditional artwork, although it does, have its own take of the artwork. I really appreciate the zoomed in effect and the borderless images. Um, yeah, it was a deck that, I didn't think it was going to be that great, but after working with it, it is really a surprise. And in fact, I actually have the mini version because I like it so much. Um, the next one is the blind date. Because we are impulsive humans and sometimes we just rush in, who did you date without looking or thinking? And that is none other than the Tarot Z. This deck is a deck that I purchased on a whim because I love zombies. But I found that this deck is certainly not for me. It is very dark, it is grim, it is macabre, which, it's up my alley. It's my aesthetic. But as a tarot deck, I simply cannot read with this. And it's not a very good reading session with this deck either. Although I really do love these backs. But yeah, that's what I get for not doing research on this deck. And yeah, definitely researching this deck would have prevented me from purchasing this deck. The next one is the Rebound Date, the one you keep going to break up with, but keep being pulled back together. And that is none other than the Tarot of Haunted House. This deck is totally my aesthetic. I love haunted houses. I love everything about it. This is a deck that has borderless cards. The cardstock is decent. It has a whimsical yet mysterious allure to this deck. Um, it is a deck that I do not use that often. I love the majority of the cards. I love all the majors, but the minors are a little lacking. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a deck that is it I feel like I need to break up with it, but since it has like that haunted house vibe and it actually tells a story with the guidebook, I can't part ways with it. So we'll see what happens. The next one, number 5, is the surprise love affair date. The one you thought would be just okay from first meeting. It was love at first sight that took you by surprise. None other than the Santa Muerte. This deck is gorgeous. I knew I would enjoy this. It is totally my aesthetic. The skulls, all of that. The artwork is very bold, vibrant, and it is just a deck that I knew it was going to be a good deck, but the way the deck reads, the way, it's always a little surprise every time with this deck because you just do not know what you're going to get with this deck. The guidebook is pretty decent as well. It goes into all of the different takes on the traditional RWS system, and clearly this deck goes its own way with the interpretations, which is very nice. The next one is the Not My Type date, the one you went on thinking it wasn't really your cup of tea, but what the hell, what happened? This has to be the Crystal Unicorn Tarot. I love animals. I'm a big nature person, obviously. Hello, Tarot by the Pines. But this is a deck that is all unicorns. And unicorns, it can be my aesthetic, but not all the time. So for some reason, I had put this in Not My Type date. Um, I love the cardstock. The color palette is very pastel, which really isn't my aesthetic, but it's wonderful for this type of deck. And here are the backs. But since it's all unicorns, it's really not my zhuzh. But it is a pleasing deck for if you want a reading that's not dark, it's not deep. It's just a very whimsical deck. The next date is the I may have to delete your number date, the one that really didn't work, but you still haven't broken up with yet. What's stopping you? And none other than the Animal Tarot cards by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. As I said again, I love animals. This deck has all kinds of animals, but this is a deck that I really cannot use. The cards are huge. They're oracle size. They have these texts on the bottom of like a synopsis of the meaning of the cards, which I thought I would like, but I find that some of the cards have religion written on them, like they talk about, religious things, and I feel like, I don't know, it feels like it shouldn't be with tarot. But the images are lovely. It's just the whole, Doreen Virtue controversy and the fact that she's denounced, tarot and oracle cards. And it's just a deck that, really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So, yeah. So, the next one is number 8, the Forever Love, True Love. Okay, this one might be on the favorites list too, but I'm curious and couldn't resist. And of course, I had to bring out the Everyday Witch Tarot. This deck is my Grand Dame. This is one of the oldest decks in my collection. I absolutely love this deck. This is totally my aesthetic. I love the artwork. I love everything about this deck. It is just fun to read, whimsical, and it is just a deck that takes you back, especially for me. Like, this is nostalgia for me. But the artwork is gorgeous. It's just fun, and it's a deck that I can pick up anytime, and I instantly can get a good reading with it. The next date, the stormy on and off date, the one you can't stay away from, equal parts passion, lust, and fighting, the one you have to have a break from but can't stay away from either. I chose the Zombie Tarot. This deck is a deck that satisfies my zombie itch. Um, Unlike the Tarot Z, which I had originally had purchased before this, and I found out that it was too dark. This one is very tongue-in-cheek. It's very humorous. It's a deck that doesn't take itself too seriously. Um, but I chose this as my on and off date because it's a deck that I don't use very often, because it's a deck I use during the Halloween season or whenever I need that zombie itch type of reading, which isn't that often. Um, but it is a deck that satisfies my zombie itch. The final date, the friends with benefits. Who can you run to without commitment whenever you just have a need for them? The one who always just slides right back in like you've never been apart. I instantly had to choose the Spirit Within Tarot. This deck I don't use very often, but when I do use it, it's like it's never left my side. I love how modern yet simplistic the artwork is. I love the color palette. I love the characters being silhouettes where you can instantly put yourself within the cards. And finally, I just love how fun it is to read with this deck. It is a very easy deck to read with, which is a major plus. So, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if you've done this hashtag. Feel free to link that video in the comments so I can watch it. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great February month. I hope you are doing well, staying safe. And until next time, I'll see you for Tarot by the Pines.